What's going on, Reality Hacker community? It is your man, Michael, and I'm excited today because we're going to talk about the one thing that I think is the most powerful way to go after and get what you want. So I want to go to a portion of The Power of Awareness from Neville. If you have that book, you can check it out. I will leave the page, comment, chapter information in the description here. But Neville says something really powerful, and I love Neville because if you have read Neville, you know how powerful he is. But if you've never read Neville, he's so amazing because he really is very clear, right? 1, 2, 3. And if you've watched a lot of our Neville videos on the channel, you'll see that when we talk about him, when we commentate about him, one of the things that we talk about so much is that we love how precise and to the point that he gets, right? There is a plethora of teachers out there who use a lot of terminology that is somewhat vague, and that's okay, right? There's no judgment, but there's some of us, myself being one of them, that we love the step-by-steps, right? And so what I love about Neville, and today is not necessarily about step-by-steps, but the one thing that he says repeatedly throughout The Power of Awareness, and honestly throughout, I would say most of his videos, is that to the degree of naturalness in which a thing is true for you, that is how quickly that it manifests. So when we're talking about naturalness, right? When we talk about something being natural to us, we're talking about the prospect or the concept of entertaining, engaging a concept inside of our body and it not producing any resistance, right? Something that you totally believe to be true about yourself right now, you can sit in your body with and you don't experience any resistance. You don't twitch, you don't freak out, you don't move a little bit because it doesn't feel true. It feels very true. But here's the thing about that. The reason that feels true is because that is a state that you constantly return to, whether consciously or unconsciously. That's something that you have to figure out, right? But the reason it feels true is because it is where you constantly return to. So the key with naturalness here is not about conjuring up a bunch of different feelings and doing a bunch of different ritualistic concepts that make us seem like a tribe in the middle of a valley in the middle of nowhere, but really just making an intention to get back into that state of consciousness every single day, right? We want to get back into that state. And Neville even says, it's not about like sitting there for a very long time. It's not about moving into a state for a very long time. It's about returning to the state as much as possible, right? Because it's the returning to it more and more and more and more that makes it natural to us, especially as we leverage that returning in the middle of a possibly triggering or separation indicating situation, right? Like, here's the thing. So we've got, and I'm going to actually have a little illustration from our private client work on the board back here, but it kind of works like this, right? You've got your self-concept that leads to your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, mainly your thoughts and your feelings. Your action can be looked at over here, right? And then what happens is an outcome, and at the end of the outcome is a response. And the response is really interesting because the response to an outcome from us is usually indicative of a self-concept that we're holding at the time. So if we can be mindful of the process of reality, right? Self-concept into thought and feeling, which translates into action, which translates into outcome, that then provokes a reaction. If we can understand that and be mindful of that in the moment when we're tended to react in such a way that supports negativity or lack or some sort of separation, what we can do is set an intention in that moment to return back to the state of the desire fulfilled, right? It's not about sitting there in the morning for 30 minutes and at night 30 minutes. It's about returning there throughout the day as much as you can, which means that we have to begin to deal with our limiting stories because our limiting stories show up in the moment, right? We're actively reprogramming here. We're actively rewiring our nervous system, our neural pathways. And in order to do that, we've got to catch these things in the moment, right? And it's not hard. It's absolutely not hard. And at Reality Hacker, we have a journal, Limitless Daos Journal, that has a full-fledged debugging process that you can use in any given moment to bring yourself back to that baseline state of infinity, of satisfaction, right? Of gratitude, of fullness, and repeat it and create a habit out of it, right? Because it's not about sitting in front of the mirror for 30 minutes feeling good about myself. It's about how I am throughout the day. It's about the states that I'm entering in and out of. because my self-concept is always leading to an available inventory of thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? And then from that inventory of thoughts, feelings, and actions, I determine that some sort of action in that inventory is applicable. And then from that action, an outcome occurs. And then from there, the response is indicative of where I am psychologically in that moment, right? To the degree of naturalness in which something is true for us, it becomes a reality, right? So in that, my job here is not to sit down for 45 minutes, although here's the thing, right? If you want to sit down for 45 minutes with the Source app, meditate, get yourself into that state in the morning, awesome, right? But we want to really set the intention to, throughout the day, being mindful of triggering situations where we might respond from a place of lack. Because here's the thing about the response. The response, it confirms the self-concept. So it acts like a feedback loop, right? And I'll do another video on this and we'll dive into it. But the response that I have to a situation, it creates a feedback loop because the response is predicated on my own self-concept. It's predicated on what I believe to be true in that moment. So whatever I believe to be true in that moment as a conclusion of that outcome then cycles into my beliefs for the next situation. It literally creates a cycle that moves on to the next moment. So that's why this is not about sitting in the state of the wish fulfilled as much as you can. It's about returning to the state of the wish fulfilled as much as we can. And honestly, if you really want to know where you are manifestation-wise, take some time and think about where you are in the day when nothing is bothering you, right? When you're not being texted, when you're not getting emails, when you're not having conversations, think about the state that you're in there when there's no overstimulation. That is the state that we are creating from, right? So we want to make an intention to get into this state of fullness as much as we possibly can throughout the day. And it's not about sustaining it as much as it's about making the decision to enter the state, because the thing about states is the more you enter them, the more natural they become, which is why you have the beliefs you have about yourself right now, because at one point you entered into those states so much that the states themselves become objectively real to you, and as a result, the experiences follow, right? So we've got some amazing stuff to work with here, understanding that to the degree in which I can constantly return with ease to the state of my wish fulfilled, I can experience that thing in my life, right? So if you haven't checked out the debugging process, go ahead and check that out. Link is in the description here. Amazing process to help you eliminate resistance in the body, fully immerse yourself in the feeling of your desire, of the goal, accomplished, fulfilled. You are so worthy. You are amazing. You are awesome. You are wonderful. You are powerful. You are all imagination. Woo! That being said, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.